Election Authority. Nadia Milleron is the independent candidate now challenging longtime Congressman Richard Neal for his seat. She traveled to Western Mass today to explain why an eye-opening published report proves she is the more ethical choice to represent Massachusetts and Washington.
Western Mass News reporter Reagan Lockery joins us live in studio with more. Reagan?
Yeah, that's right, Abby and Chris. This is all based on reporting by Politico, which alleges Brendan Neal, son of Richard Neal, has collected regular payments from his father's campaign and received business from lobbyists in exchange for tax breaks and other federal benefits. The article alleges Neal has quietly dominated tax policy for decades, and now Milleron wants voters to end Neal's time in Congress.
For over 3 decades, Richard Neal has sat in the center of power in Washington. He has wielded influence over our nation's tax policies as chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, and now he's ranking member. Yet, people are questioning who Richard Neal really works for.
On Thursday, digital newspaper Politico published a 21-page report on Massachusetts Congressman Richard Neal, implicating Neal and members of his family in unethical political practices. His opponent running against him in November, independent candidate Nadia Milleron, tells Western Mass News her team was made aware of the findings from this news investigation on Wednesday. The next day, she traveled to Springfield to highlight what she calls unethical behavior.
A year after his father became chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Brendan Neal started a one-man lobbying firm and began raking in money.
Politico reports that their investigation found payments from the Richard E. Neal for Congress committee to his son's business, Brendan Neal Strategies, have totaled over $196,000 since 2020. Milleron tells Western Mass News that the investigation done by Politico raises questions on whether or not those payments were a backdoor to funnel money into the Neal family. Although Milleron says these allegations are not illegal, she believes they are unethical and morally wrong.
Now, after 3 decades, lobbyists have a clear 2-step formula. They donate to Richard Neal's campaign, they funnel money to his son, and then their legislative desires become law.
Western Mass News did reach out to Congressman Richard Neal's office for comment and received a statement from his campaign that reads, Congressman Neal has been clear Brendan has never lobbied his office of Ways and Means Committee. Business with early voting started while his political opponents are manufacturing distractions. He remains clear-eyed about what's really important in the stakes of this election, fighting to lower costs for working families, for women's right to choose, and to preserve Social Security. That's what's on that ballot and why he's traveling from Pittsfield to Pittsburgh campaigning for Kamala Harris. Reporting live in studio, Reagan Lockery for Western Mass News.